The main aims and objectives of the design review panel are really to uphold design quality, but it does that by creating a meeting place where the different parties in the process of design can negotiate and broker some of the constraints and issues. And that doesn't just mean aesthetic qualities of buildings and places, but the impact that design can have on the social agenda and economic factors. So together all of these things are coordinated through the design review process.
So principally it's about delivering good design from the macro scale right down to the detail. So landscape, ecology, placemaking, urban design, master planning, architecture, all of the key components that go together to make great placemaking.
The design review panel is open to anyone to bring a scheme where they're considering a comprehensive design process. So it's accessible to local authorities as they negotiate with applicants, but likewise on the private sector side it's available to applicants to negotiate their position with local authorities. And that may include developers, it may include designers, landowners. It's really open to all as a facility to open up the design conversation.
One of the benefits of the design review panel is the people that come to it will come to it as applicants. Sometimes it's the local authority, but it can be agents and landowners as well. I think for them, knowing that there's an independence from the local authority and a view that will be given independently away from policy advice and about design specifically is important. It means in the future they can rely on the opinions given at design review panel should they enter an appeal process.
The aspiration in the design process, however you engage in it, is to look at constraints and challenges in new ways. That's what all of us as professionals aim to do. In many cases, the systems and frameworks within which we work focus us in particular directions, and the independence of the design review panel process gives the opportunity to zoom out again and look afresh and provide that ability to look at things in the right perspective. Perhaps leapfrogging kind of existing systems and frameworks and looking to what would ultimately be the best outcome in a situation.
There's a broad cross-section of disciplines sitting on the panel, and the panel also has a large pool of members to draw from, which means that it can remain independent, ensuring that any conflicts of interest can be brought up at an early stage and somebody else can be brought forward to sit on the panel. I think that's the benefit of that breadth. And also the panel can be tailored to ensure that the right mix of skills are there to determine the application that's put forward in front of them.
One of the privileges of being a panel member on the design review panel is that one stands independent from many of the interests one holds in a professional capacity. So independence, impartiality, a fresh approach and perspective from those which are embedded in the design process is I think the value of the design review panel, and it's the benefits you get as a user of the panel in accessing those independent views, that fresh perspective. The value of the design review panel process needs to be considered in a wider perspective than just the cost of the service. The value that it brings in unlocking dialogue between parties, independent review of ideas and opportunities in solving challenges that projects face are not necessarily directly correlated to the cost of the service that is provided by the design review panel. So the value of design, one could argue, is much broader than the cost incurred of undertaking that process.
Early engagement with the design review panel can really help to enhance their standing in the process and to sometimes accelerate the discussion they can be having with the local authority. Especially at an early stage, this ensures that there's been a rigorous review and the local authority will see that as part of the process. Because members of the panel don't necessarily all come from a single background, the broad societal expertise that we can bring, the cultural added value that we can bring, are important non-financial additions.